everybody. It is Ren Carothers, and it is two-year-old Tuesday. Excuse me. It's a little early in the morning for me. I haven't even had breakfast yet, but I'm too excited. We have too much to talk about. Let's talk about some of the win and your in action we had this past weekend at Royal Ascot. Talking about the Group 1 Queen Anne Stakes. That's a win and you're in for the FanDuel Mile. It was won by triple time at huge odds. We also had the Group 1 King Stan Bredsell getting his ticket punched to the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint. The Group 1 Prince of Wales Stakes. Well, that was won by Shadwell's Mosadaf, who secures a place in the Longines Breeders' Cup Turf. That's a $4 million event. And in the Group 2 Norfolk Stakes, winning a spot in the Juvenile Turf Sprint, we saw Ammo Racing's Valiant Force, trained by Adrian Wallace, win. And his rider, Rossa Ryan, joins me now. Good morning and afternoon for you, but morning here.
Good morning.
Okay, so I was looking at your schedule. First of all, big congratulations on the wins. Not only did you win aboard Valiant Force, but on Jimi Hendrix as well. But just going back and looking at your race card, as far as I can tell, because this is as far back as I could go, you've been riding since the 13th. You're still riding now through Ascot, and you are riding all this week. When are you going to be able to take a breath?
I think we get a week there in November, but that's as long as I know.
Well, how do you keep? I mean, do you thrive on it, on just the constant work, or does it begin to take a toll at any point?
It does take a toll towards the end of the year, and I do take a little break in Christmas time, but it's kind of an all year round thing. We don't stop.
Well, before we get into this past week and just some exceptional rides, you had some other horses make the board there at Royal Ascot as well. I'd like, for the people who aren't familiar with you, Rossa, because primarily the people who watch here in the United States, and we watch racing, we watch the big international circuit, meetings and whatnot, the Epsom Derby and so on. But for those who don't know your backstory, can you tell us how you got into racing? I know your dad, David's a trainer. Was it always something you wanted to do, ride?
Yeah, no, it was always something I persisted with. I did pony racing at a young age, which is over here is for kids that aren't old enough to get their licenses yet. Which they do a wonderful job. And yeah, it just kind of took off from there. I became an apprentice to Richard Hannon. You know, I made a big move at 16 from Ireland to England and never looked back.
I'm sure it was scary to some degree, but to make that big jump. But was it more exciting for you than the fear of what if?
Yeah, for sure, because the Hannons are rich in legacy over here in England, and it was just something you just couldn't turn down.
Well, I imagine that your dad is just over the moon. What is it for him being a trainer and seeing you ride at these prestigious meets?
Oh, he gets a massive buzz off of it alone. We were a big staple back a couple of years, and maybe slowed down a small bit the last couple of years, but he's been my mentor the whole way through, and yeah, he gets just as much of a kick out of it as I do.
Do you feel that there's been a benefit for you as a rider having grown up in a stable yard?
To some degree, yeah. Over here in England, we have jockey coaches that, try and guide the apprentices until they get through their claim. But, yeah, my dad wasn't very easy on me, to say the least.
That's all right. You get toughened up. When we're looking at the racing there versus the racing here, you've actually been here before. You were here in 2020, not even old enough to go get a glass of champagne or anything. But you were here in 2020 at our Breeders' Cup World Championships at Keeneland. What was that experience like for you? And was that the first time you'd been to America?
No, I as an apprentice, I took a filly over for Richard Hannon just as a groom. But to ride, it was my first time. And yeah, I'd been to Australia the year before, and it was similar enough. And I kind of, the they kind of nearly worked hand in hand, so it wasn't too hard to get grip of.
Well, when you are riding at a race meet like Royal Ascot, are you approaching it? And I would assume you are, but I'll let you speak for yourself. Are you approaching it like you would any race? Because ultimately the goal is always to win. But is there still something in the back of your mind about the Royal Race meeting? Does it in any way impact the way you go and attack any specific race?
Um, in one degree, yes, and another, no. It's another day at the office. But then there's the hype and the buzz all around Ascot, and before the first race and the first day, there is just pure silence in the weigh room, and once we kick off and things get going, things start to flow, and if you can get on the board early, it makes the week a hell of a lot shorter.
And you did get on the board early. You put in some rides, basically denying what the punters were putting out the horses. And it was really something to see. I mean, we'll get to the fact that you went aboard a 150 to 1 shot in a minute. But I mean, just to go back, you were third aboard Tritonic for Alan King in the Ascot Stakes. You also got the Shodo aboard Anaf for Michael Appleby, and that was in the Group 1 King's Stand. That itself, by the way, I should reiterate, that's a win and you're in for the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint won by Bradsell. But what was it like to ride there in the Group 1 and get on the board?
Well, I picked up Anaf over the winter, and he's just progressed for me. And I didn't ride him in his last 2 starts, and yeah, it was good to get back on him. I've ridden him 4 times now. I've won them 3 and placed in the Group 1. I couldn't ask for a lot more, really.
Well, I also have to tell you, it's been really interesting because I've listened to some of the interviews you've done. I listened to the one in particular with Rishi Prasad, and the way in which you speak about the horses, I just find it very poetic. A lot of jockeys will give you the rundown of how a race played out. You speak to it almost as an homage to the horse you rode. I thought it was very impressive. Have you always had this connection with the horses in a way that it just makes such a profound impact to you that you're able to recall the way a race played out and unfolded in sort of a storyteller fashion?
Not really, but
Well, you do.
no, we growing up, we trained, but also had pre-trainers. We did all our own breaking, so you always were looking to get the best out of the horse and getting inside the horse's mind, and both coming through together. So it might have a small part to play.
Well, let's talk about the second place finish aboard Gr2. This was for Clive Cox in the Hollywood House Stakes. The winner there was Rhythm in Hooves. Again, you're just bringing these horses home. So, what was that experience like for you?
Yeah, I was a small bit gutted, to be honest. We hadn't the greatest to draw, and didn't have many horses to take me into it. I didn't have to go for him till barely outside the furlong pole, and he's just got a small bit lonely, and Holly done me on the line.
Yeah.
I think he is a bright future. I think he's a horse that's progressing, and I would imagine as he gets older, he's going to only get better. So he definitely one to keep on the radar.
Okay, everybody, you heard it here. Keep Gr2 on your radar here. We always, of course, say that pace makes the race. And when you have these giant fields, though, and you see them spread out across the course, how hard is it to gauge where you need to be?
Oh, it's but pace is one thing, but you also need to get onto the back of something that you're nearly guaranteed will take you as far into the race as you need them to. If you're there with a chance, then you'll go and win. But everyone at Ascot was saying that there was a draw bias, and I wasn't too sure about that. I think it was just where the favourites held up and where the pace was about that the strong gallop was continued.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, also just going back to the way that the races are run there on the courses, and we see these big flanks, and just you'll see one pack go one way, another pack go this way. Obviously, with American turf racing, our horses all stay to the inside rail as close as possible. Did you find that something easy to navigate when you were here and you rode in the juvenile? It was the juvenile turf, right?
Yeah.
And
It's similar. Well, the one thing you notice in America and in Australia is when you turn off that bend, you don't mind coming wide, and you just want one clear run. It's all about rhythm and not committing until you're guaranteed a gap, really and truly. Because if you get, hammered down or crossed over on in the last, furlong and a half, the race is completely over for you, no matter how much you want to get going again. Whereas at Ascot, it's a defined gallop from the word go up a straight track. The likelihood is if you get a little bump or a nudge, or you can't get out, 2 out, you still, if you have the horse underneath you, he'll get you out of trouble. You still have a chance to get there.
what do you think is your strongest asset as a rider?
I don't know.
Well, it sounds to me like you work it all out. Like you're very, again, intuitive into you build this connection with your horses. It sounds like to me. It kind of sounds like you get in their brain, and you've worked it all out. I'm sure you're looking at these races beforehand, where your horses should be placed. You've been galloping them. You have an idea of what you have under you, and
that's a lot. It's knowing the best. It's easier when you know them. It's knowing the best way to get the best out of them.
because we have here so often. The riders are getting on these horses in a lot of our races here in the States for the very first time ever. They've never even seen the horse. And now they have to ride them going X amount miles per hour and try to get that horse to the winner's circle. And it's always just struck me as fascinating that they can, put such faith in an animal that they have no previous relationship with. And I mean, I'm sure there've been instances where you've had to get on a horse for the first time. And what is the difference to you? Like, how do you assess a horse quickly to get the best out of them?
Good instinct and going and hoping the trainer is spot on.
That's right. You can only hope that you're getting the good information, right?
Exactly.
What is before Royal Ascot? Maybe this still isn't the peak for you in your career so far, but what has been the most exciting race for you
Pre-Royal Ascot.
pre-Royal Ascot?
When the July stakes, probably on Persian Force, or my first Royal Ascot winner, they were something special.
Oh yeah, Persian Force. You had Go Bears Go's a really nice horse that you've ridden. Ken Ross, that was a tremendous performance. That to get up there in the
it was just the start of the day. Ken Ross won was just the start of what he was going to go on to be, and it was good to be a small bit a part of that.
Well, just even going back to the fact, it's funny when you say, because it sounds as if it were far away, but you're still so young. I believe that you hadn't even officially turned 17 years old when you won your first official race.
No, that's true.
That's insane. That's insane. I mean, when you just think about it, and so now your birthday's July 3rd, I believe, right?
Yeah.
So happy early birthday.
Thank you.
And, do you? But I think you're riding that day too. You're not taking it off.
No, I have to go racing after this, so there's
But
no.
Okay, but then what is that like? So you just had these two giant wins. I'm talking about Jimi Hendrix again in the Royal Hunt, and of course in the Gr2 Norfolk, the win you're in for the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf Sprint, Valiant Force. I feel, and I was speaking about this with my husband, we feel like you probably haven't even had a chance to reflect on these wins on your own, shy of just doing interviews like this. You've been on a media tour, and I have to imagine it's fun probably to be able to reflect with other people and share the fun of what it's like to win at such a important meeting. But at the same time, have you had even 5 minutes to sit by yourself and think, wow, won not one race, but 2 races at this historic meeting.
Uh, I yeah, just of the last couple of days maybe, but there's it's you have to. I want to be doing that on a regular basis, and there's always improvement every which way. So
Well,
I
before
keep,
we even get to those wins, I mean, HMS president.
yeah, he's been a great servant to me.
When I was listening to you speak about him again in that interview, you really do sound like you appreciate this horse in a profound manner. He was second there for Alan King and the Duke of Edinburgh. The winner there, Akita Soshi. What is it about this horse that just has endeared him to you?
Well, this year was the first year I've got on him, and I suppose I think his trainer Alan is he's a gentleman to ride for, and we've had a really good winter as well, and he's I think a 6-year-old now, and he's changed from a different yard. He was with Eve Johnson Houting and was always running well at a good level, but just the change of scenery and for a great bunch of owners as well, and it's just brought life to him. And the plan for the start of the year was the Newmarket race, and he went and won. And then we thought, are we good enough for Ascot? And Alan had faith in him, to be fair to him, and we couldn't have ran any better if we tried. And he was just unlucky. He did everything right.
Aww.
And just got worn down. So it also, my girlfriend works there, so it kind of just ties it all together really. And he's one of the yard legends already, and he's still not the oldest horses going.
Well, I love that. And we also have some comments for you. This is a live show, everybody, so if you want to join in, ask a question, go for it. Lon is saying, hey, future stars. Hey, Lon, how are you doing? We have Judith. That's awesome. Congratulations. It really is something. I mean, I feel like this is a meeting that we're all watching from all around the world. And again, you won not one but 2 of these races. We're going to now talk about Jimi Hendrix beating Sonny Liston. I mean, what are the odds of that, right?
Yeah, well, someone said to me I had to ask someone who Jimi Hendrix and Sonny Liston were, but I was told fairly quickly.
Oh no. Well, I mean, I'll admit, Sonny Liston. I'm not real into boxing, so that one I was like, wait, I know the name, I'm not sure. Jimi Hendrix, obviously, here is a legend. So, the odds of that happening are pretty up there. And the thing I thought was also funny, I don't know if you saw this article, but it's a picture of King Charles and Queen Camilla, and it says King and Queen's hopes dashed in the Royal Hunt Cup. And I looked at that and I thought that has to absolutely be surreal to see an article saying that basically a horse that you rode to victory dashed the hopes of the king and queen.
It was yeah, that winner was that was brilliant, because we always knew Jimi Hendrix had the talent. His work at home proved everything, and he'd ran in all the top handicaps for milers pre-Ascot. We thought he'd go close in the Lincoln, and one thing led to another, and he was nowhere near. Things didn't work out, and he got applied the blinkers in the Spring Cup, and he on very heavy ground, and he won really impressively. And then turned out quickly in Newmarket, probably was a bit too keen. Ran okay, but the handicapper didn't give him much of a chance. He'd gone up £10 between the Spring Cup and the Royal Hunt Cup, so we weren't sure. But he's different. He has to be ridden completely different to any horse I've sat on before.
Oh, I heard you talking about with the blinkers and everything. He gets claustrophobic, and
Just as
so
yeah. So it was my instructions going out were, be forward and handy, and if you're in front, then that's fine. And I jumped out last, so that whole plan went out the window. But I think the most fascinating thing was, he won the race on quick ground, which was completely opposite to what he'd been running on all year.
wow.
And to pull 9 lengths clear of his own group, where the majority of the favourites was, an exceptional performance.
I actually have the replay here, so we can pull it up and you can relive it with our audience. So here is Jimi Hendrix in the Royal Hunt Cup at Royal Ascot, trained by Rafe Beckett. So here, if you don't mind kind of redescribing what you just did, lay out for us as you're watching the race here play out.
Yeah, we jumped slow, but we're halfway now, and from the gates, I was kind of nearly always at him. We made a few tech arrangements going to the start, applying earplugs into him just to relax him. But from here, I had to look across, and I could see that the stand side group were about 3/4 of the way back to our group. So I knew we was going a brisk tempo, but also the favourites were over on my side. So I knew I'd have plenty to take me into it. And just, we're racing a long way from home. We're 4 out in Ascot. That, I was just, it was only here kind of passing the 3, he started to come on the bridle, and I've pulled him out wide just to give him a chance. And I just had to keep rolling with him because I'd been at him nearly all the way.
Oh man.
And I wasn't feared of kicking him in the belly at the 2 pole. It's a long way home in Ascot compared to most places, but
yeah,
because of that stiff hill. But I knew he'd get, he will get further in time. So, that was never a problem.
At that point in the race right there, what you had to know you had it locked, right? Or did you feel these horses had a chance of flanking you down?
Now, to be honest, I could see someone in the corner of my eye across the track, which ended up being Sonny listening. But I didn't realise I was, as far clear as I was.
Have you added some Jimi Hendrix music to your iPad rotation? Or
I was made.
So, or before we start talking about the horse again, the show's about the 2-year-olds we're going to see on Future Stars Friday at Breeders' Cup. But before we do talk about Valiant Force, how, as a jockey, when you have these big rides, and also, just all that goes into staying fit and what you eat and everything, how are you celebrating when you still have to ride? What did you do that evening?
I didn't do anything because
I
had a light weight the following day, so I couldn't after Jimi Hendrix. But no, I got through the week, and my family were over, so we went for dinner.
And I think I heard. I'm sorry to interrupt. I think I heard you say that's the first time they've been there at Royal Ascot with you, right? They were there with you.
Yeah, all of them together. Yeah,
that's amazing.
So, yeah, it was brilliant.
So I'm sure they did enough celebrating for you.
Yeah. Oh yeah. There was no worry on that.
I love it. Oh, we also have more congratulations here. Frankie Wagner. Congrats, Rossa. Do you have a mount yet for the July Cup at Newmarket?
No, not yet.
Okay. So if anybody's watching who can book a ride, there you go. So now let's talk about the horse who did win berth into the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf Sprint. And it sounds to me from the comments I've read from Adrian Wallace, or Adrian Murray rather, that they are going to come for Breeders' Cups, provided everything goes smooth, because you never know with a horse. They can hurt themselves. You could bubble wrap them, and you just have no idea. But should everything go smoothly, the plan is to come for Breeders' Cup, yeah?
Yeah, I would imagine so. I'm was set up in America as well, and they look like they're making a pretty good go of it at the minute. And you would imagine it'll only progress, and they've been the last couple of years. So I couldn't see why not. He's by 1 year American
Yes,
sire,
he is.
and
Um,
he's won now and he's in. So everything looks pretty right for him.
and
Uh, so it'll be just what approach to take towards there.
Well, I mean, the shocker is, well, first of all, as you just said, he is by Malibu Moon. He was bred here in partnership. So Ramon R.J. Rangel bred him with Spendthrift Farm, and you know that's obviously a huge thrill for them to have a horse representing a sire who passed away just a couple of years ago, and he was one of their marquee stallions. And so to have that a horse win at Royal Ascot and now be able to come back here and contest our Breeders' Cup World Championships is such a thrill. But the fact that he went off at 150-1, what was Adrian Murray telling you before the race? When you're looking at what these odds are you even thinking about that? Does it in any way put in the back of your mind, wow, nobody thinks I have a shot?
Not particularly. There was no pressure on me. And his form wasn't actually that bad.
Yeah,
He
that's
was
what I've heard you say. Yeah.
second first time up in a listed race, and then he raced on his own in another listed race. So they obviously thought a lot of him. And he was only beaten a length and a half, and he raced on his own, beaten both times by His Majesty, who was in the Norfolk as well. And the horse of Julia Harrington's that made a lot of money the night before in the London sale was fourth in the Coventries, and ran a massive race. I thought, well, it's going to be very hard to beat the favourite, because I seen him win the National Stakes, which is a listed race in England pre Royal Ascot, and so yeah, we're rightly against it, but the lads in Ireland were very confident that he'd run a big race. They always held him in high regard, and he was working with Bucanero. I don't know the last bit of the name. Who ran in the Coventry for them and finished third, and they said he's working just as well as him. So I thought, well, that can't be too bad. So, and then when I seen him, I fell in love with him instantly. He was a fine big horse. He really had the Americans down. He's a big horse, and you could see how you could see progression in him. And when we went to the start, he gave me a tremendous feel to the start. He very free moving horse, moved on the ground beautifully, and Amo's first jockey, to be fair to him, Kevin Stott, he filled me with confidence. He said, I actually really like this horse. He was just, things didn't go right both times for him, but he has a bright future. And in the race, I couldn't have gone any better if I tried.
Wow. So you have given a lot of credit to your agent, Stephen Croft, in getting these rides. And can you tell us about your relationship and how this one specifically, you just, mentioned how this one came to you, just how the planning has resulted in such success here?
Oh, well, Steve has been with me now. I think this is our fourth season. Might be our fifth. I'm not fully sure. He corrects me on that. I think it's our fourth, and I think we've ridden 100 winners plus in the last 3 seasons. And he, he's been home to Ireland with my family and everything, so he's part of the clan, and he's got 5 jockeys on his team, and they're all brilliant jockeys, and they're all, we all look out for each other. And he's the lad behind the desk that probably doesn't get the recognition he should get. And the least I could do was give him every bit of praise that he deserves, because he probably doesn't get enough of it.
Well, he's definitely. I put you in such a great spot here. And going back to Valiant Force, we're going to show the replay now, and if you can once again take us through it as you're watching it, and to reiterate to your point about that he really exemplifies an American bred horse, as we were discussing, by Malibu Moon. And Malibu was always a very versatile sire. So the fact that this horse had the success on turf, not surprising, but it's also fun that his mother's they're one of our really top horses in Quality Road, who's just one of these horses that could set he set a track record winning our Florida Derby, and then he beat his own record winning the Don Handicap. He's just a really exceptional horse, and he also has a great forelock. He's known for his forelock. Quality Road is. So great mane on him. I don't know if Valiant Force maybe inherited that as well. But actually, before I get to this replay, we have a question for you, if you don't mind. One more question, Ross. Will the extra furlong suit Baltic Voyage tomorrow at Salisbury, given this will be a second run this year?
Yeah.
Okay. There you go. Short and to the point. Yeah, that's the other thing I'll mention before we show this replay. As I said, you haven't had a day off. You were riding all the way through into Royal Ascot. Then you're riding at, let me see here, because this is nuts to me. You went to Lingfield after that. Then you were at Pontefract. Then you're at Wolverhampton. Tonight you're riding at Newbury. Yeah. I just don't know how you do it. Like, after we show this replay, I want you to give us like what your routine is, what your itinerary is in terms of what time you get up, when you work out, when you eat, when you sleep. You don't have to give every single detail, but the overview, because I just think it's insane, and maybe you can give us all pointers how to best manage our time. But first, we're going to show the Norfolk and your win aboard Valiant Force. And let's see here, make it full screen and hit play. Okay. Well, it has closed caption there, but hey, if people want to hear the call, they can read it. So go ahead and take us through.
Yeah, so you can see him in the purple and the white hat. He jumped really well. I was the quickest one out of the stalls, which hopefully come American time, that will play to his strength. There wasn't much pace along our side because the Wesley Ward horse didn't jump, and I was kind of waiting for him, and he never came, and it ended up that the Ammo's first string took over and led us a merry dance, and he's a good horse, and I was happy to track him because I knew he'd take me well inside the 2 furlong pole, which he did, and everything was just all in rhythm from a furlong and a half out. I was just going through the gears and fully committed him at the furlong pole, and from 100 150 yards out, he's gone a bit idly on me, and I would imagine if I had a ding dong battle with someone that he could have gone further away from the field. So it is something to be excited about, considering he's a very big horse. So you would like to see just natural progression as the year goes on with him.
How hard are those final strides there? Because you're down low there. You're giving it all you got.
Well, it's one of the stiffest racetracks in England, so it takes. When you think about going in Ascot, sometimes you have to count to 10 and then go.
How much research does go into it? You riding at so many different tracks. Obviously, there are riders who tend to be. We talk about horses for courses, same thing with jockeys in some scenarios, but you're riding at so many different tracks. You're riding, the turf, you're riding the all-weather. How much research for you goes into just mentally working out the configurations, where you need to be at a given point, depending on what your horse's style is? Is it more about just riding these races so often, that it just becomes rote?
Yeah, and along the way, you just pick up little, tips in yourself. You could have finished second or third and maybe not should have won, but yourself, if I did this would have worked, and then you try that and it works. Just little tips for yourself around race courses that just can be the difference of getting an advantage over a lesser experienced jockey around them courses. We have an advantage because we ride in Ascot quite a bit throughout the year, whereas when the American riders come over, even the Irish riders and Australian riders, they don't know it as well as we do, same as when we go over there. But, sometimes that can be the difference of winning and losing, and they're nice to have.
So that's part of what sets a really good rider from an elite rider. It's just these small nuances of just I don't know. I just feel like the top guys always put in that extra bit of work, that extra bit of, whether it's with the horses and just working them out and going over those past performances and seeing maybe where other riders weren't able to get the horse home, and maybe we're working out the horse also just when on their back, and figuring out, just making that connection, the bits there through the rain and everything. I mean, I grew up on a thoroughbred breeding farm, but so I have the experience there in terms of how I understand horse racing. I rode horses, not raced horses, but in dressage and whatnot. So I understand horses from that perspective in terms of getting to know them on their back and creating that relationship with them. But now when you're putting those two things together, the horsemanship along with going at these speeds, that to me, it always blows my mind what you guys have to do. And so, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, it's probably not that simple, but when people watch it to what it actually rides like. But the form book can tell a lot. It's not going to tell you everything. And unless the trainer says he wants to do something completely different, the form book doesn't really lie. And I think form and doing your homework on horses can, maidens and 2-year-olds can be different. They're young and immature, and they probably don't know anything but to give you their best. But the older horses, they get a bit clever to the whole game, and the form book don't lie with them.
Okay, now let's talk about your form book, as I was asking before. Oh, real quick, Jimmy Taylor wants to know, you feel good, Rossa?
Yeah. After the week.
Yeah, I mean, after this is so no, but that's the thing. So going back, like, you feel good. So you're riding all these horses. What is your routine? Because I would be so sore. I mean, I know you guys are at peak fitness, so that's why you're able to keep doing it. But like, do you ever go, oh, dude, my arm? Or I don't know. It blows, again, my mind that you are able to do what you do to the extent you're doing it day in, day out.
Yeah, I mean, it's just about getting a routine, isn't it? I'm lucky on Monday mornings I don't have to ride out, but every other day I do. So, most of the yards I ride out for, I'd have to be in the yard for 6. So you're looking at a 5:30 get up, gone by 5:45 in the morning, and then come back. And if I come back, and if I'm in an evening meeting, I'll go and have a quick nap and then get up and have a sweat to go before racing. And if not, I'll have a sweat and then go racing and have a nap on the way.
Oh my goodness. Okay, tell us about what you're riding tonight.
I ride a horse called Galactic, first time up filly by Massar, first season sire. She's a nice little filly. She's doing everything right at home. And it's a great starting spot in Newbury. So, time will tell. And I ride a horse for Alan King called Gr2, who I've been second on more times than not, and still trying to figure him out. But the day I didn't ride him in an apprentice race, he went and won. So, but he's been running well, and he's been running consistent, and Allen's are in great form. So you just don't know.
So what are you most looking forward to?
In
the immediate future, because we're going to say Breeders' Cup, but we'll say in the immediate future.
Yeah, probably Goodwood. Goodwood's our next big festival, and then there's the York Ebor meeting. So, they're two major festivals. Goodwood is definitely one place you want to get on the board, and there's Newmarket July meeting as well. So you just never know. It's I have a couple of nice older horses, but it's finding the next top 2-year-old, potentially top 3-year-old is the overall goal, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so exciting. And again, just listening to you speak, you've been so humble talking about your experience, not just with Royal Ascot, but just in general in your career so far. And it's still so much in its infancy, the fact that you've had as much success as you have, I think you're already at how many wins at this point in the season? It's something where you're on track to, go further and can. Was it? I have it right here actually, but I think it's like 80. What's that? You're at 83 wins.
I think so. Yeah.
And so I just, the fact that 2 of those are at a meeting like Royal Ascot again, and the fact that we're going to get to see you at the Breeders' Cup, it's I don't know, for somebody so young. I remember when I was 20. Again, you're going to be 23 on July 3rd, but I remember being that young. It's a long time ago. do you still feel young because you speak with you speak with such experience?
Not really. I mean, I had to grow up fast, but I'm just appreciative of everything that's happening. Any opportunity that I get, and it works out, because it's all about learning, and you learn something new every day, and yeah, it's only about getting better. So yeah, we'll keep going as long as we can, and see how far we get.
Well, Rossa, I have to thank you so much for your time. We wish you continued success, and we look forward to seeing you at the Breeders' Cup World Championships, November 3rd and 4th. Everybody, those tickets are on sale now, and continued success.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Oh, no, thank you. And everybody, this has been your Future Stars forecast on a 2-year-old Tuesday featuring Rossa Ryan. Thank you so much, and we'll check you back here next week.